Hi, my name's Tyler Moore. These are my Jetstar tomato plants. And as you can see, I already have some growing right here. I have two growing right here. Over here, I was told if you ever have a trio growing, as you can see, let me get the camera in focus. You're supposed to pinch the one off in the middle because I guess the weight of 3 tomatoes growing on one, they won't get fully grown. And when you have weight like this on the plant, eventually if you have 3 of them right here, it's going to prematurely drop them off the plant and they won't be able to grow. Now, this is my first time growing tomatoes. I have 5 plants in all. They're all Jetstar tomatoes. These are about a month and a week old. I do water them frequently. I'm going to show you my original tomatoes that I started this season, which are along my fence line. Get over here. It rained this morning, so naturally my grass is soaking wet, and I would like to mow my lawn, but need to let it dry up. These are called, they were a hybrid actually. I bought them from my local greenhouse area, and they told me, well, they had them labeled as big and beefy tomatoes. This is my first time growing tomatoes. I have 3 plants. They're growing along my fence line. Now the thing is, these looked horrible. I had grown them in those buckets that you see over there for over a month. We got a bunch of flood water, and they were to the point where they were so yellow I just thought they were dead. Well, one of my buddies has grown tomatoes his whole life. He said he's almost fed an entire town. Now that's an overstatement to say you're going to feed a whole entire town of tomatoes, but I believed him, and he showed me his process on how to grow tomatoes and taught me a lot. Now when I showed him these, he said I was doing it wrong, because what I had was these 3 plants initially in one of those buckets. I have 4 Walmart buckets and 1 Lowe's bucket. You can see the color distinction difference between those 4 ones. Those are Walmart, that's a Lowe's one. I started with the Lowe's one, these 3 plants, and some Miracle-Gro. My problem was, without doing the proper research and growing tomatoes, I didn't drill holes for those tomato plants that I got along my fence line over there. And what I mean by that is, after he showed me his process, you start out, drill 1/4-inch holes all the way around. Now, I wouldn't say it really matters on the distance between each hole. You can see there's a hole right there. In order for the water, excess water, to drain out. And it does drain out, because I've watched it when we've had heavy thunderstorms through the area rolling through. Now, the process that I use, that he taught me for these tomatoes right here, is, let's break it down in 4s. First, you obviously get the bucket, and you're going to want to drill holes in the bucket, 1/4-inch holes, all the way around the bucket. Each bucket has holes. You see those right there. Sorry about my grass. And then you're going to get a thing called egg rock. It's like a gravel material. These are called egg rocks. You take these egg rocks and you fill 1/4 of this, almost to the halfway point, but I'd say 1/4 of it, with gravel, or these egg rocks. You can buy these, and it's actually Quikrete makes these. You can buy these at Lowe's, is where we picked ones up at. You fill that up, 1/4 of it. Then when you get to your halfway mark, you're going to want to use your state's natural soil. Now this is Oklahoma soil. So in my backyard I have a dirted out area. It's real fresh and a lot of things grow in it. And I dug all the weeds out of it and whatnot and used the dirt in the bucket. Put the dirt in the bucket. And then when I got to my 3/4 mark, I used Miracle-Gro garden soil for flowers and vegetables. It actually feeds them up to 3 months. This will naturally feed your existing soil. It will improve it and build stronger roots for your vegetables and whatnot. It's funny because isn't tomatoes classified under a fruit actually? Anyways, long story short, that this is what I use on the top. When you put your tomato plant in, from what I was told, yeah, that one's gonna, I'll leave that on there. He said even though it looks wilted like this, you will want to leave that on there because it can always spring back to life. And obviously I have these up here, this one right here, and I have these 2 buds right here that are probably going to produce tomatoes. Anyways, you want to lightly turn the soil every time you water it and when you plant your tomato plant. Let's start with planting your tomato plant. You don't want to just shove it in there, compact it in there to make sure it's nice and tight. You want to loosely put your tomato plant in there and just kind of till the soil with your hand and lightly smash it down. You don't want to smash it down with extreme force because apparently you will bruise the roots of the tomato plant themselves. And then after a few days, the roots will take hold in the soil and be able to stand on their own. Every time you water it, you want to till the soil with your hand. Just gently turn it over all the way around. And you can obviously see a very big difference from where I'm turning the soil and where I haven't turned the soil. Then you get standard watering can. Mine's laying in the grass over there. And you want to water half of the tomato plant. You don't want to water the full thing. He told me to water half the tomato plant. Now, I don't know how you guys do it, but I've been following that practice and obviously it's produced results. So half the tomato plant gets watered, and then I might come out here this evening after I watered them in the morning and check the soil and see if it's still moist. If it's not moist, I'll come over here since I watered this side and I'll till this side up with my hand very lightly and I'll water this side. But yeah, basically these are all Jetstar tomatoes. Remember, 1/4 inch holes in the bottom of the buckets, on the sides of the buckets. You want to use egg rock for the first layer in force for your bucket. Then you want to use your natural soil in your state or whatever country you might live in. And that's your second layer. And your third layer is Miracle-Gro garden soil. And then when you put the tomato plant in the soil, which would, the top layer would obviously be that Miracle-Gro, you want to lightly till it with your hand and gently place the tomato plant in there and lightly pack it in. You don't want to smash it in with extreme force. I see lots of people do that with flowers and whatnot. Lightly put it in there and the roots will eventually take hold after 1 to 2 days. When you water it, you lightly till the soil, water one side, and when you need to water it again, water the other side. These big beefy tomato plants over here, like I said, were on the verge of dying. They look like the bottom of the plants over there. They were so yellow and disgusting, but my friend said they could be salvaged and saved. He says when you grow along the fence, you don't want to use zip ties or anything when it needs to be held upright. You want to use something like pantyhose. So if you know any women with pantyhose, even though it's a weird question, maybe a family member, you could ask them for some spare pantyhose and tie them gently against your fence. That way they can expand with the pantyhose. You put a zip tie on there, they're not going to expand past however tight that zip tie is. Obviously I got a bud there, a few on the bottom. There's one right there. It's really neat growing different types of tomato plants because you're going to see the difference on how long it takes them to mature. Over here, just for giggles, these are actually morning glories my daughter purchased for $1 at the dollar store, and she was so excited to plant them. And yet I tell my wife I have yet to see a single flower on morning glories. And then she's got a experimental bean plant that she made in science class that's growing right here. It's actually a pod right there, just for giggles, and she has water bottles that were into the soil that were turned upside down. So as I progress with growing my tomatoes, I'll show you guys the progress each tomato plant's made, from the big beefy tomato plants that are right here and the Jetstars over here. I hope to have a good harvest off of them. We'll see. If you guys have any ideas on better ways to grow tomatoes or have your own ways to grow tomatoes, you can comment in the comment box. If you could like this video, I'd appreciate it, and if you'd like to subscribe, please click the subscribe button below. And like I said, I will show you the progress of these tomato plants up to the time of harvesting. Thanks.